Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling completely right, only to realize later that something felt off? Like the other person could have said more, but didn't. Like they knew something, but chose silence. If that person was an INFJ, there is a quiet reason behind it. INFJs are often called the rarest personality type. Deep thinkers. Quiet observers. Emotionally intelligent. But also, mysterious. They don't argue the way others do. They don't correct every mistake. And sometimes, they let you think you are right. Not because they agree. Not because they are weak. But because they see something you don't. In this video, we will explore 10 calm, powerful reasons why INFJs let you think you are right. By the end, you may start to question how many times it has already happened to you. 1. They value peace over winning. INFJs are not interested in winning arguments. They are interested in preserving emotional balance. Not just for themselves, but for everyone in the space around them. For them, conflict feels heavy. It lingers. It drains their energy long after the conversation ends. It is not just a moment. It becomes something they carry. They quickly sense when a conversation is turning into a battle. It is subtle. A shift in tone. A tightening in words. A quiet tension in the air. And in that moment, something shifts inside them. They pause. They become more aware. More intentional. They step back. Not physically, but emotionally. They create distance inside themselves. They soften their voice. They slow down their words. And sometimes, they stop correcting you. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they already understand where this is going. Because to them, being right is not worth disturbing the peace. Not every truth needs to be spoken in every moment. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected immediately. They choose timing. They choose harmony. This is one of the most misunderstood INFJ personality traits. People assume silence means agreement. People assume they have one. But for INFJs, silence often means restraint. It means they are holding back something deeper. Something more complex. They are choosing calm over chaos. And that choice is intentional. It is quiet, but it is powerful. 2. They see the bigger picture. INFJs are known for deep intuition. It is not loud. It is not obvious. But it is always active. They don't just listen to words. They listen to what is behind the words. They read patterns. They notice repetition. They recognize behaviors over time. They connect things that others miss. Small details. Subtle shifts. Unspoken meanings. They understand long-term consequences. Not just what is happening now, but what it leads to. So when you insist on being right, they may already see where that belief leads. They may see the flaw, not just in logic, but in outcome. They may see how it plays out later. In decisions. In relationships. In growth. They may see the outcome, clearly, quietly, but they also see that you are not ready to hear it. They sense resistance. They sense attachment. They sense when a truth would not land, but bounce back. And so, they let you hold on to your perspective. They do not interrupt your process. They do not force awareness. Because forcing insight too early only creates resistance. It creates walls. It closes minds. This quiet patience is a core part of INFJ psychology. They understand timing. They understand readiness. They understand that awareness cannot be rushed. They trust that time reveals truth better than arguments do. And so they wait. Without pressure. Without noise. Just quiet understanding. 3. They respect your emotional state. INFJs are highly empathetic. Not just in a general way, but in a very precise way. They feel the emotional tone of a conversation almost instantly. Before words are fully spoken. Before thoughts are fully formed. They sense it. If they sense that you are defensive, they notice it immediately. If they sense stress, they feel it in your tone. If they sense emotional tension, they become aware of it without effort. And in response, they adjust. They do not push harder. They do not become louder. They become careful, more gentle. More aware of how their words might land. Because they know that logic cannot reach someone who is overwhelmed. No matter how correct it is. no matter how clear it is. If the emotional state is not ready, the message will not be received. So instead of pushing their point, they step back. They lower the intensity. They create space. They let you feel heard. Even if they disagree. Even if they see something you don't. They prioritize your emotional experience in that moment. Even if it means letting you believe you are right. This is not manipulation. It is not avoidance. It is emotional intelligence at a very high level. They are choosing connection over correction. They are choosing understanding over control. 4. They avoid unnecessary explanations. INFJs can explain things deeply. Very deeply. They can break down ideas. Layer by layer. They can connect concepts in ways that feel clear and meaningful. But they also know when it is not worth it. They sense openness. They sense curiosity. And they also sense when those things are missing. If they feel that someone is not open, they notice it quickly. If someone is not curious, they feel the lack of engagement. If someone is not willing to reflect, they recognize the closed door. And in those moments, they conserve their energy. Because explaining something to a closed mind feels like speaking into silence. Words go out, but nothing comes back. No reflection. No movement. No shift. So instead of over-explaining, they simplify. They reduce their response. They become minimal. They nod. They move on. And they let you stay in your version of truth. Not because they agree, but because they see no value in forcing depth where it is not welcomed. This is why INFJs are often described as selective communicators. They don't speak just to speak. They don't explain just to be understood. They choose when it matters. They don't waste words. They don't waste emotional energy. They choose where their energy goes. And that choice is deliberate. 5. They are testing your self-awareness. Sometimes, INFJs stay quiet for a deeper reason. A more subtle reason. They are observing you. Not in a judgmental way, but in a reflective way. They want to understand how you think. How you process. How you respond to your own ideas. They want to see if you will question yourself. If you will pause. If you will reconsider. If you will reflect. If you will notice contradictions in your own thinking. They do not rush to point things out. Because they believe something important. They believe that real growth comes from within. Not from being corrected. Not from being told. But from realizing. From seeing it for yourself. So they create space. They do not interrupt your thoughts. They do not fill every silence. They let the silence do the work. And they watch. Quietly. Patiently. They observe whether awareness begins to surface on its own. This is a subtle but powerful INFJ behavior. It is not obvious. But it is intentional. They guide without controlling. They influence without forcing. They allow you to meet your own understanding. At your own pace. And sometimes, that means letting you believe you are right. Just long enough, for something deeper to emerge later. 6. They know truth does not need force. INFJs have a quiet confidence in truth. It is not loud. It is not urgent. It does not rush to prove itself. It simply exists, steady and unmoving. They don't feel the need to defend it loudly. Because to them, truth is not something fragile. It is not something that breaks when questioned. It is not something that disappears when ignored. It remains. Even in silence. Even in disagreement. They believe that what is real, what is accurate, will reveal itself over time. Not through pressure. Not through argument. But through experience. Through patterns. Through reality gently unfolding. So even if you walk away thinking you are right, they are not disturbed. They do not replay the conversation in their mind. They do not feel the need to chase you with more explanations. They let the moment pass. Because they understand something deeper. That clarity often comes later. Quietly. Unexpectedly. Because they trust the process of reality. They trust that life itself teaches what words sometimes cannot. That time exposes what arguments try to force. That truth does not need to be pushed, to be seen. This calm detachment is often mistaken for indifference. From the outside, it can look like they do not care. Like they have given up. Like they are disengaged. But that is not what is happening. Inside, they are steady. Grounded. Certain in a way that does not need noise. but it is actually deep inner stability. A kind of stillness that comes from understanding. A kind of confidence that does not need validation. They don't chase validation. They don't look for agreement to feel secure. They don't measure truth by how many people support it. Because their sense of knowing comes from within. From reflection. From pattern recognition. From quiet insight. They don't need to prove themselves in every moment. They don't feel threatened by disagreement. They don't feel diminished by being misunderstood. Because they know who they are. And they know what they see. And that is enough. 7. They are protecting the relationship. INFJs care deeply about meaningful connections. Not surface-level interactions. Not temporary bonds. But deep, lasting, emotional connections. The kind that takes time to build. The kind that feels rare. They are not interested in being right at the cost of losing someone. Because to them, connection is not replaceable. Trust is not easily rebuilt. And emotional distance can linger long after words are spoken. So when a disagreement appears, they pause. They do not react immediately. They observe. They feel the shift in energy. And they weigh something important. Is this worth creating distance? Is this worth damaging trust? Is this moment worth risking something deeper? They think beyond the present. Beyond the need to correct. Beyond the need to win. They think about the relationship as a whole. Its history. Its meaning. Its future. If the answer is no. If the cost feels too high. They step back. Gently. Quietly. Without making it obvious. They soften their response. They reduce intensity. They let the moment pass. They let you have the moment. Not as surrender. But as a conscious choice. Because preserving the relationship matters more. More than being correct. More than being understood in that instant. More than satisfying the ego. This is one of the strongest INFJ relationship traits. They prioritize depth over dominance. Connection over correction. Understanding over control. They think long-term. They ask themselves what will matter later. Not just what feels important now. They protect what they value. Even when it means being misunderstood. Even when it means staying silent. Even when it means letting something go. 8. They are tired of being misunderstood. Many INFJs grow up feeling different. Not in obvious ways. But in quiet, internal ways. Ways that are hard to explain. They notice things others don't. They feel things more deeply. They process the world differently. And often, this difference is not understood. Misunderstood. Misinterpreted. Sometimes even dismissed. Over time, this creates a quiet fatigue. Not dramatic. Not visible. But constant. A kind of emotional tiredness. From explaining. From clarifying. From trying to be seen accurately. They realize that not everyone will understand their perspective. Not everyone will take the time. Not everyone will look deeper. And slowly, they accept this. And that's okay. Not in a defeated way. But in a peaceful way. A way that releases pressure. So instead of trying to be understood by everyone, they become selective. Careful. Intentional. They choose their moments carefully. They choose who they open up to. They choose when to explain, and when to stay quiet. Sometimes, that means letting you believe you are right. Because they sense something. That the effort required to explain will not be met with openness. That their words may be twisted. Or reduced. Or overlooked. Because explaining themselves again feels exhausting. Not physically, but emotionally. It feels like repeating something that was never fully heard the first time. This is part of INFJ burnout patterns that many people overlook. It is not always about doing too much. Sometimes, it is about explaining too much. Feeling unseen too often. And eventually, choosing silence as protection. Not because they have nothing to say. But because they have said enough, in the past. And learned what happens when it is not received. 9. They are giving you space to learn. INFJs believe in personal growth. Deeply. They value it. They seek it within themselves. And they recognize it in others. But they also understand something important. That growth cannot be forced. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be inserted into someone's mind through argument. Sometimes, people need to experience things for themselves. To walk their own path. To reach their own conclusions. To make mistakes. Not small ones, but meaningful ones. The kind that teach. The kind that stay. To reflect. To pause. To question their own thinking. To evolve. In a way that feels real. Not imposed. So INFJs step back. Not because they do not care, but because they care in a deeper way. They allow the experience to unfold. Naturally. Without interference. Even if it means watching you hold on to a belief that is not fully accurate. Even if it means knowing something you have not yet realized. They resist the urge to correct. They resist the urge to guide too directly. Because they understand something subtle. That realization is more powerful when it comes from within. When it is discovered, not delivered. When it is felt, not forced. This is quiet wisdom. The kind that does not announce itself. The kind that does not need recognition. It simply allows space. And trusts what will grow inside it. 10. They simply do not care about being right. At their core, INFJs are not driven by ego. They are driven by meaning. By understanding. By connection. Being right is a small thing to them. So when a conversation becomes about proving a point, they lose interest. They disengage. And they let it go. Because their energy is reserved for deeper things. This is what makes INFJs so different. They move through life with a quiet focus on what truly matters. So the next time you feel like you have won an argument with an INFJ, pause. Ask yourself, did they really agree with me? Or did they simply choose peace, understanding, and distance over conflict? INFJs do not always speak their full truth, but they always see more than they say. And sometimes, silence is not agreement. It is awareness. If you found this perspective interesting, take a moment to reflect on your own conversations. You may start to notice things you missed before. And that awareness is where real understanding begins.